Today I wanted to talk to you about branding yourself. As you are about to enter the job market search, some of you may have already been searching for a job. There are a lot of pieces that need to come together. And one thing, let me go ahead and get this playing here. Sorry about that. One thing that you can do is create a cohesive brand for yourself. And we'll be doing that in this class later on in the term around module 4 or 5. We'll start really thinking about creating your own personal brand. And this is going to be something very simple, nothing too labor intensive or concept intensive is necessary as far as like a specific logo design. Really more, I want you to think about how to make yourself look like a professional designer and how to make your branding materials, which I'll be calling stationery, uh, which consists of a letterhead, which is what your resume can go on, or what your resume information will be put on. So you'll have like a letterhead, you'll have a business card design that matches your letterhead, and then an envelope perhaps, and some other pieces that go together. So the idea is to make all of those pieces look similar and cohesive, yet remaining very, very simple. So let's dive in here. Now, like I said, your branding or your logo, I don't want to call it that because it really doesn't have to be a logo. I'm going to show you some options for creating a resume design. The first option I think that you could do would be to create a monogram. And a monogram is combining two letters, usually the initials of your first and last name. Some people may want to use a first, middle, and last name, so you'd have three letters to combine. Perhaps you have a business name that you want to start a freelance business, perhaps. You could use that name or those initials, perhaps. Some of you, now first of all, it doesn't need to be anything extremely complicated. I know this looks like a very complicated logo design with all of the circles and the measurements. So you may want to think back to, your Illustrator skills and your Illustrator class, and use Illustrator to create a simple monogram. But you may not feel totally confident in Illustrator, and I understand that. It may have been a while since you've used it. So you may want to start with just pen and paper. Do some sketches by hand to think out your ideas before you dive into Illustrator and potentially go down a rabbit hole that wastes a lot of time. So think out your ideas on paper. It doesn't really matter how great your sketches look. It's just a way to get some ideas flowing. Now this is just one particular letter or initial, and I'll show you some examples. Here's another example. You could, instead of using your initials or a monogram, you could use your actual name, your actual signature, shown in your own handwriting. You could mix different fonts, making them still look interesting. So mixing fonts is a great way to make this look like you spent some time on it, really thinking about your brand and your personal style. But then again, something simple, like something like this, would be great. Here are some other monogram ideas, just lots of different styles. Some are more feminine, maybe some are more elegant, Art Deco, some have sort of a sporty look to them. So really think about what your personal design style is and try to think of a way to create a monogram if that's the way you choose to go by creating a monogram. Really try to think of a way to fit or design your monogram in a style that fits your own personal design style or something about yourself. And again, this does not need to be overly complicated or something that takes a really long time, something like this, just using a foreground and a background with contrasting colors. In this case, just black and white. They contrasted it with a um, capital letter mixed with a script lowercase letter, so it gives like a nice, simple monogram logo look there. And again, you can see it's carried throughout the logo, and then the logo mixed with the name and her address is something that you could do perhaps on a letterhead or perhaps on an envelope. Here are a few others, very simple, black and white. One's a little more elegant looking, one's a little more modern. Just another way to think about it would be, do you want just your initials, or do you want also to have your name, or maybe even the name of your business, or if you're, you could say you're a graphic designer, or you could say web design or something like that underneath your name. So that's an option as well. There are lots of monogram tutorials. If you're a little, if you've been away from Illustrator for a while, Adobe Illustrator, you could look for some monogram tutorials online. There are several out there on YouTube that can refresh your skills in that area if you like, or of course I can help you if you reach out to me. One other thing I wanted to show you here, now this is a monogram for Gary Thompson. He's combined his G and T into a nice simple monogram letter form, but also if you notice at the top of his stationary letterhead, he has his name in a different location, and I know it's a little blurry, you probably can't see that, but it says freelance graphic design under his name. And then, for instance, on the business card, it's handled a little differently. I don't know that you can see that, but his business card has his monogram logo extended across as a background on his business card, but scaled back on the opacity so that it's just an interesting background form. So there are different things you can do. You can change up your placement of your logo, and in some cases you'll notice on the front cover of his folder he has the logo completely in white, and then at the top of his letterhead he's pulled in the color version of the logo with the white background. So those are some thoughts that you can think about. It doesn't have to completely match in every single location. You can have some fun with changing up the way your logo is presented. You can have it just the monogram, you can have the monogram mixed with your name, change it up even more and add the name of your business or your title underneath if you want. Here's an example of something, again, super simple. It's minimal. You sometimes kind of have to hold yourself back from doing everything that you want to do, because this is about you. This is showing what you can do. So sometimes it's really hard to pull yourself back and be minimal in your own personal stationery because you kind of want to show everything that you can do. So this is just an example to let you know it's okay if it's simple. Again, if you want to use color, I thought this was a really cool example because it shows a front and a back side of the business card. And again, lots of nice color here. If you're a person who has lots of colorful, a colorful design style. Again, here is a very simple, I know they're a little blurry, but just to give you an idea, this is a very simple resume, but it looks great, looks very professional, even though there's not a lot going on. No infographics, no color. Really, she's just letting the type speak for itself, and the organization of the information, I think, on this piece is really nice. You could choose to use a color scheme. Color schemes can help create sections of information. So in this case, they're using different colored bands to separate different sections of the resume. This shows here an example of a monogram, just a very simple J and a D put together with slightly different colors of type, just on a color field of yellow. Very minimal color, but it really makes a big impact. It stands out a lot. So that might be a way that you would want to go. And this is also an example. If you notice, they have a monogram, and they've chosen, this is just a fake person, I believe, but they've chosen to also add a photo to their resume. And your resume is something that we'll be working on in module 5, I believe. You'll be gathering your info early on in the semester, but later in the semester, you're going to have some time to really make your resume look great. We'll work on a lot of your information organization and your typography at that point. So what I want you to focus on now is thinking about how you want to present a monogram design, perhaps. Perhaps add a photo, maybe just do a photo, no monogram. There's another example here. Sorry, let me go find it really quickly. Oh, here's one example that shows an illustration. So maybe if your personal design style is you like to do illustrations in this style, perhaps you could create a portrait of yourself and add that to your resume. So there are a lot of options that you can think about. And I'll stop this video here. And in coming weeks, we'll be talking about more, like I said, more about your actual resume design. But for now, I just want you to think about how you want to brand yourself.